Hey everyone, welcome to this week's video. Today is a quick one and it's just an update, and it's that GCSE exams are now cancelled. So obviously Boris just had his announcement stating that England will go into a national lockdown. So what does this mean? Basically, it's going to be like March again. It's going to be at home, not visiting friends, online school as usual, nothing fun. However, now he said a very important thing, and that is that exams will not go ahead as planned. This means that GCSEs are most likely cancelled. Now, I'm not an official news source, however, based on what people are saying on Twitter and what other news sources are saying on Twitter, it seems that exams will not go ahead. So this means GCSEs cancelled, A Levels cancelled, any kind of exams that you have at the end of the year are cancelled. Why are they cancelled? Well, because schools are also closing until February. Even though yesterday or a couple days ago the government announced that schools will reopen on the 11th or 18th for people in year 11 and year 13, this was in fact not true, because we're not opening back up again till February half term at least, is what the government stated. This means we're back to online learning. I don't like online learning that much. It's kind of a bit tedious. However, it's back to how things were in March. I know for me, March and like April, May, June time was just a lot of kind of boring learning, going through PowerPoints, trying to submit work on time, going on calls with friends to do work. What I think about this is that it's probably the best decision. Although I'm a big advocate for GCSEs going ahead and going out as scheduled as usual, it's sad that I kind of have to look at this from a standpoint of the greater good, looking at this from the point of the people are getting affected and are dying. The country needs to go into a national lockdown. Although we tried with the kind of 1 month thing before Christmas, it still didn't work out. People are mad. People still kind of went out and spread the infection. This meant curve didn't flatten out. And well, why did this happen? Is because of this new strain. So this new strain is a lot more infectious, and being a lot more infectious, it means that more people are dying, causing the cases to spike and death toll to increase, which is not what you want right now as a government. The only plan of action that Boris clearly didn't want to do was close schools and implement a tier 4 lockdown around the whole country. And he states that you're not allowed to go out for anything that is like non-essential, so staying at home unless you need to go shopping. I think you're allowed to do exercise. Okay, I just looked. You are allowed to go out and do exercise. You're allowed to leave if you're being domestically abused and essential things like that. Pretty much just how it was, like I said, back in March. It's a bit more tougher as we kind of have to go through it again. Obviously, I'm a GCSE YouTuber, so I want to give my opinion on what I think this means for GCSEs and I guess A Levels. I think this is probably going to be quite detrimental to people doing GCSEs. For one, this will most likely mean that you're going to end up getting your predicted grade, or you're going to end up getting your mock grade as well as a teacher assessed grade. So if you've not been great in class, unlucky, your teacher's probably going to give you a grade now. You're probably going to have to use some of the grades based off mocks as well as your previous grades that you've gotten in the end of year 10 and towards the beginning of year 11 and maybe end of chapter exams and things like that. The reason I think this is detrimental to a fair percentage of students is because since GCSEs are cancelled, students don't want to do any more work. Unless Boris implements some kind of thing that's like based on what you're doing online learning, which is difficult because a lot of people struggle learning online compared to school environment, then like I said, you're going to get your predicted grades and or like your teacher assessed grades, and those grades have already been determined, which means students don't want to do extra work at home. I know maybe some people watching this video will want to do the extra work, not extra work, but do the required work to finish so that you have a good base when it comes to college or A level. However, I also know a lot of people who won't do that, who don't care about that. They just kind of will end up sitting at home for quite a few months until A level start or college starts, not have the foundation to go off of. I think for me and a lot of people I know, such as my friends and maybe a lot of my viewers who are quite ambitious watching this video, you'll end up doing that work and going through that and actually trying to build that foundation for A level. Because one of my friends who was doing A level, he said for his first year, it was just a lot of reviewing GCSE content, and if you haven't reviewed the content, it's going to make it a lot harder and it's going to make it a lot more difficult when you actually move on to A level content that you might not understand. I'm not your mother, I'm not your father, I'm not going to be out and telling you like, oh yeah, you need to do your extra work. I could see from the standpoint of someone else like not wanting to do anything else because it won't make a difference. Just like last year's pupil, I don't know anyone who actually did any of the work that was set. After they announced GCSEs were cancelled, I know pretty much everyone just kind of stayed at home and relaxed, and I think it will be a similar situation. However, it's going to be worse for us because now they're cancelled, or GCSEs and A Levels are cancelled in January. At least for the other students, they were cancelled towards the end of March, so a lot of their GCSE content had been reviewed. It was mostly only, you know, going over revision and trying to strengthen that knowledge. But I know in my school and for a lot of classes for you guys, like you wouldn't have done a lot of the subjects, such as, you know, for me in like biology, chemistry and physics, I still need to finish a lot of paper 2. There's some subject we haven't gone through, like we've just gone on to waves and physics. I know for maths we've done a fair amount, but there's still some stuff to cover, and my school wanted to start doing further maths. However, I don't think that'll be possible now. Another thing is for like English, we've literally just gone to Act 2 in Macbeth, and I know for a lot of you guys, maybe you haven't reviewed all the poems yet, or you haven't gone through your last book or something like that. All I'm trying to get across is that there's still a lot of content to be covered, and if this content doesn't get covered, or it won't get covered as well, especially because online learning, although I love online learning, I don't mind it that much, it can be quite difficult, and I sometimes wish, you know, there's a teacher there who can explain it to me. And if we're learning all this content on our own, it's not going to be like the best quality of content we're getting, because, you know, we're either learning it from an Oak National learning video or learning it from YouTube. Whereas if you're, you know, in class, you can always put your hand up, ask the teacher questions, or someone else may ask a question, so it can be quite tough. I don't think they'll do a U-turn on this. Obviously, I'm not like the most reputable news source in the world, but I don't think they'll do a U-turn on this decision. I think it will kind of hit stay. It was pretty inevitable. You know, I was kind of in denial. I didn't want it to happen, but it would eventually have to happen, especially since people started seeing the cases spiking and rising, you know, having to close schools. And I agree with it completely. A lot of people were dying, a lot of people were losing their lives, a lot of people were getting very, very ill, and it's not good that that was happening. I know a lot of you are very happy about this. Personally, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I'm just a bit sad because I would have loved to improve on some of my mock results. Obviously, I did well in, you know, my ones that I want to do for A level, but I think in some of my other mock results, I could have done a lot better. So I'm happy that, you know, the government are finally going ahead and making the right decision. I'm sad we won't get the quality in classroom learning that we normally do, and end up actually doing our exams to try and improve upon those grades. Because with mocks and like exams that you first do, I know a lot of people who, you know, improved a ton when it first came to their exams. So they did their mocks, they didn't maybe got like a grade 7, got grade 6, got grade 5, and then, you know, shot up to grade 8, grade 9, grade 7, whatever, and ended up doing really well in their actual exams compared to their GCSE mocks. Especially at this time, a lot of schools were actually doing, you know, exams in the classroom. We weren't doing in the hall, so people weren't feeling the pressure, and usually pressure can help you perform a lot better, can help you, you know, do well in your exam, and cause you to, you know, start revising a lot more, start actually putting in the effort. I know a lot of people require that kind of flip of the switch to get moving and start actually doing a lot of schoolwork, start doing a lot of revision. That flip of the switch doesn't really happen until like February, March time, because, you know, GCSEs are in May, June time. If schools are going to stay closed till February, it means that GCSEs definitely won't happen, because we would have lost a lot of schooling, and no more 3 weeks can make up for this. I really hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, check out last week's video where I talk all about, you know, getting coronavirus and my experience with that, and why it may be better to close down schools. Don't forget to subscribe, and have a productive week.